Good morning and welcome back to BreathSpace. Now, whether this is your first time joining or you've been with me over the first couple of episodes, I'm so glad that you're here because this space is for you. It's that moment in the week where you can pause, breathe, reconnect with yourself in a way that maybe you haven't had time for lately. Now, we've been on a little bit of a journey over the last couple of sessions. We've explored self-compassion, being kind to yourself when things are hard. And then last week we moved into abundance and shifting from scarcity to noticing what we already have. And today we arrive at something quite powerful, and that is letting go. And letting go can feel like a big thing, sometimes even a scary thing. We often associate it with loss or endings, with things that we're afraid to let go of because we're not sure what might come afterwards. But what if letting go isn't the end of something? What if it is simply just making space? Let's begin with a little story. Now imagine a tree in the autumn when the leaves begin to change colour, all sorts of wonderful colours, golden, crimson, amber. And then one by one, these leaves begin to fall. And now the tree doesn't resist. It doesn't cling on to the leaves. It doesn't chase them when they drop. It just lets them go gracefully, naturally, because it trusts the season. It trusts that the leaves have served their purpose, that their falling is part of something bigger, and that when the time is right, something new will grow in their place. So what if we could trust ourselves in the same way? To know that letting go doesn't mean failure, it means evolution. That we don't have to carry every old story, every expectation, every burden forever. Letting go is a quiet form of wisdom, a soft kind of courage. It's a choice to lay something down, not because it didn't matter, but because it's no longer meant to be carried. And so today I invite you into that space, not to force anything, not to fix anything, but just to notice what you're still carrying and gently ask yourself, is it time to let this go? So let's talk about what letting go actually means psychologically, emotionally, and even from a neurological perspective. Because a lot of us think that letting go means forgetting or giving up or pretending something doesn't matter anymore. But in truth, it's far more complex and far more empowering. Now, there's a concept in psychology called cognitive fusion. And this is when we get completely caught up, completely wrapped up in our thoughts. We don't just have a thought, we become the thought. If your mind says, I failed, you don't question it, you wear it like a name tag. And letting go in this context is called cognitive diffusion. It's being able to step back and notice the thought instead of identifying with it. So instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you say, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. And that small little shift can give you space. And that space is where freedom lives. And another big reason that we hold on, especially to painful memories, to relationships, to expectations, is because we want control. We think that by holding on, that we can change the outcome, that we can rewrite the ending in some way. But often we're holding on to something that's already gone. And holding on doesn't protect us. It actually keeps us in a state of tension, emotionally, mentally, and even physically. So letting go isn't saying that it didn't matter. It's saying that I'm choosing peace over control. And sometimes we struggle to let go because we've never actually processed the emotion beneath what we're holding. We try to suppress it, we avoid it, we push it down. But emotions are like waves, they don't disappear when they're ignored, they just build. And so letting go begins when we allow ourselves to feel, to grieve, to acknowledge, not to dwell, but to release. And this is where the science gets really beautiful, in that the brain is capable of change at any age. And this is called neuroplasticity. So every time you choose a new response, every time you say, I don't have to carry this anymore, you're creating a new pathway in your brain. And so letting go is not forgetting, it's a form of retraining. It's retraining your mind to focus on peace over pain. It's focusing your mind to become present rather than reliving the past. Now, it doesn't happen all at once, but it does happen gently over time with awareness and compassion. Now, I once worked with a client who had been carrying a very heavy story for most of his life. So he was bullied when he was younger, belittled, humiliated, made to feel like he didn't matter. And although the bullying stopped many years ago, the emotional impact of it never did. And even now, as an adult with a job, family, a life, and he looked stable from the outside, he still felt so small inside. He still doubted himself. He still hesitated to speak up or to try new things or even to believe in himself. And why was this? Because somewhere along the way, that experience had become a story that he had fused with. You know, the thoughts of I'm not good enough, or people don't really respect me, or I'll never have the confidence that others have. This wasn't just a story anymore. It wasn't just something that had happened to him. It had become the lens through which he saw the world. And worse, he now saw himself through this same lens. So when we began working together, we started to gently explore this. And at one point, I asked him something quite simple, but quite powerful. And that was, what if this story is still so real in your mind because the emotion is still attached to it? And that seemed to hit home, because that allowed him to step back and just observe the story without the emotional charge. He could see it for what it was, something that happened, but not something that had to define him. He could finally look at that part of his story, that part of his past, and say, yes, it did hurt, but it no longer has power over me. And that pain came from somebody else's behavior. And then with that emotional space came clarity. And with that clarity came the ability to reframe the story. So instead of seeing himself as someone who was broken by the experience, he began to see himself as somebody who survived it, somebody who carried on, someone who was stronger, more compassionate, more self aware because of it. And so letting go in this case wasn't about pretending it didn't matter. It was about removing the emotional hooks that had kept him stuck. It was about giving himself some permission to see the same story through a different lens. And that's where his healing began, not by forgetting the past, but by reclaiming the power that he had given away with it. So I want to give you a few moments to reflect on what we've just explored. Now, you may want to take a few moments and write, or you may just want to sit with your thoughts, with these questions just quietly. So, what story have you been telling yourself that might not be fully true anymore? Maybe it's something that someone else made you believe. Maybe it's a belief that about who you have to be or what you're not allowed to want. And how is that story still shaping the way you show up today? In your relationships, in your decisions, in your confidence? What emotions come up when you think about letting go of that story? Is it fear? Is it sadness? Or a sense of relief? What might change in your life if you started seeing that story differently? How would you speak to yourself? What would you give yourself permission to do? And finally, if letting go feels too big right now, what one small piece of that story could you release today? Could be a thought, a self-judgment, a label, just one thread that you could begin to unweave. Because like we said, letting go doesn't mean the story disappears. It means you stop letting it decide who you are now. So I had a couple of questions again this week, and thank you for sending those in. First question is, how do I let go of something when I never got closure? And we can all probably relate to this question. And it's one that I often hear quite a lot. And we're often told that, time heals, that things will make sense eventually. But the truth is, sometimes the closure never comes the way we'd hoped it would. Sometimes the apology never arrives, the explanation never comes, or the ending feels unfinished. And that can leave us holding on. Not because we want to, but it feels like we have to in order to move on. But here's something quite powerful to consider. Closure doesn't have to come from the other person. It can come from within you. Because letting go isn't about pretending that it didn't hurt or that it didn't matter. It's about releasing the need for that pain to be wrapped up neatly with answers. Now, sometimes closure could be writing the letter that you never got to send, or sometimes just saying to yourself, now this will never feel fair, but I'm ready to stop letting it live in my body. You don't need someone else's permission to begin your healing. You're allowed to move forward, even if some other pieces are still missing. Now, another question I received was, well, if I let go, am I losing part of who I am? And this is a really deep question, because often the things that we hold on to, the pain, the roles that we perform, our expectations, they become part of our identity. So it can often feel like you're losing part of who you are. You might think that if I stop fighting for this, who am I? Or if I let go of this anger or this version of myself, then what is left? But here's what I want to offer you. You're not losing yourself. You're making room to find the real you underneath it all. Because sometimes we're so fused with the survival roles that we have to play, the people pleaser, the perfectionist, the overachiever, the one who always has to be strong, that we forget that these are adaptations and not our true essence. So letting go doesn't erase you, it reveals you. And you don't have to know exactly who that version of you is yet. You just have to trust that what's underneath is more peaceful, more whole, more aligned than what you've been carrying. So I'd like to thank you for those questions. They were really, really good to reflect on. Okay, so let's move into our guided meditation for today. And this is about being able to let go. So let's take this time now to bring the session gently to a close. Find a comfortable position. Could be seated or lying down. Just allow your body to feel supported and let your hands rest loosely. And if it feels okay, gently close your eyes or just soften your gaze. And let's begin with the breath. Take a slow, deep inhale through your nose and a long, soft breath out. Again, breathing in deeply and slowly breathing out, letting go of any tension. As you breathe in, notice the calm, soothing energy filling you. And as you breathe out, any tension or stress held anywhere in the body, can just be released. Once again, breathe in calm and breathe out anything that you don't need to hold on to right now. Breathe in calm, relaxing energy. And notice every time you breathe out, you relax deeper. And now let your breath return to its natural rhythm, gentle and effortless. Letting your body begin to settle. And now I want you to imagine something. Imagine you've been walking along a long path, and on your back is a heavy backpack. It's been there so long, you've almost forgotten it was there. But it's weighed you down, slowly, quietly, over time. And this backpack is filled with the things that you've been carrying. Maybe it's an old memory that you haven't been able to put down, a belief about yourself that no longer feels true, unspoken expectations, guilt, resentment, or a role that you've played for far too long. Each item in this bag holds a weight. Now, you don't need to name them all. Just know that they're there. And now picture yourself slowly taking off the backpack. And feel the shift in your shoulders as that weight comes down. Feel your spine begin to lengthen. Feel your chest soften. Let yourself notice the relief, even if it's small. The bag is in front of you now, and you unzip it. And one by one, you begin to take things out. Maybe there's a word, an image, a memory. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to understand it. You just acknowledge it and place it gently on the ground. And you notice that with each one that you take out, a weight lifts off of you. With each of these things that you take out of your backpack and place on the ground, you begin to feel lighter and calmer and more at peace. And as you take each item out and place it on the ground, repeat softly in your mind, I don't need to carry this anymore. I choose to release no longer. I choose to release what no longer serves me. With each item you place on the ground, just repeat to yourself softly, and empoweringly, I don't need to carry this anymore. I choose to release what no longer serves me. Take your time. Let each breath be a release, a letting go. And now imagine standing there without the backpack. Imagine no longer being defined by what you were carrying, no longer burdened by what was behind you. Feel the space that opens up in your body, in your heart, in your breath. Take a moment to sit with that. What does that space feel like? Maybe it's a lightness. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's possibility. Breathe into that space now. Breathe in peace and breathe out release. As you breathe in, say to yourself, I am safe to let go. And as you breathe out, I make space for what's to come. And slowly bring your awareness back into the room. Feel your feet on the ground, your hands resting, your body supported. Gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Take one final deep breath and let it out slowly. And silently thank yourself for showing up, for releasing even a little, for making space for something new. So thank you for being here with me today, for showing up for yourself in this space. Now, letting go is not always easy. It asks us to look inward, to think, to feel things that, we've been carrying for a long time, and to loosen our grip on them, even if it's just a little. But today you did that. You gave yourself space. You made room to breathe and maybe to begin again. And so as we bring this session to a close, I want to remind you that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over pain. It means choosing you. And once again, we begin to release what no longer serves us. And once we start to do this, something amazing happens. We create space for what's been waiting to come in. And that's why next week's session will be about receiving, and how we often struggle to let good things in. kindness, love, support, compliments, even rest. And how learning to receive fully is a gift that's not just for us, but for those around us too. And so once again, if you'd like to send any questions or thoughts or any insights on next week's theme, then you're always welcome to do so, either in the Facebook group, a private message, or even by email at info@drranjsagoo.com. So until then, hold on to the softness that you have found today. And remember, you don't have to carry it all. You're allowed to let go. And you're worthy of what's coming next. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. And I'll see you next time.